Hey guys, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk, and I'm doing another one of my ranking the albums videos. I haven't been doing a lot of these because these are kind of tough to make, and basically what's going to happen is that next Monday I'm going to debut a new series I'm going to call 5 Rekkids in 5 minutes, because there's a lot of groups that I have several albums by, but I don't have the entire discography, and I don't want to get the entire discography to do a ranking. I know I could stream to do a ranking, um, but I don't. I'm kind of tired of accumulating sort of mediocre records to get a discography of groups, so I'm going to kind of start shying away from that. I'll still do ranking of videos occasionally, but okay, we're almost a minute in. Who am I ranking? If you didn't see the thumbnail and do all that, I'm ranking Seattle's grunge legends, Mudhoney. And so we have 11 studio albums that we'll be talking about. One of them, honestly, is basically an EP combined with some early singles, but it's very important in their history, and I felt it should be discussed. And I kind of break up the history of Mudhoney into kind of like 3 periods. There's like the early period, late 80s, early 90s. They were on Sub Pop. Grunge was really just starting to come into play there. And then uh, the rest of the 90s, there's a 3 album stretch where they were on a major label. They were on Reprise. And then basically their albums in the 21st century, of which there are 5 studio albums, are back on Sub Pop. And so let's get into it. My number 11 is going to be Mudhoney, Piece of Cake, from 1992. Yes, this was their major label debut in a year that was just gigantic for grunge and alternative in the Seattle scene. And it's really quite unfortunate that Mudhoney released, in my opinion, their worst record that particular year. I have to admit, I mean, I've had this for a long time. I never really listened to it a lot. And going back and re listening to do this record, I realized how mediocre and boring this is. I mean, Suck You Dry is a pretty good song, but I look at the titles, even though I've gone back and listened to it recently, this just didn't have the magic that the records that they got signed for have. Number 10 would be another one of their major label releases. So this Tomorrow Hit Today from 1998. This was the final record that they did for the major label. It was produced by Jim Dickinson, who you may know from like Big Star, Alex Chilton, did the Replacements, Pleased to Meet Me. I don't think this was as successful as those. And basically, the label basically hardly pushed this. I think they were pretty much already going to get rid of them. And again, a lot of sort of songs that just aren't very memorable, maybe Oblivion. My number 9 is going to be this one right here, the Lucky Ones from 2008. So this is the third of their 21st century records that came out on Sub Pop. The first one I'm talking about. And again, this is kind of it. Once they went back to independent records, they started doing some longer songs, some jamming, some jazzy sort of influences occasionally, which weren't as pronounced on this. And again, this is just another one of those not terribly memorable records. So with Mudhoney, it's more like, it's not like I listen to the songs, I go, oh my god, these are terrible. But there are certain albums that don't have a lot of memorable songs. My number 8 is going to be their most recent release called Digital Garbage from 2018. I've got the Loser Edition, which is Sub Poppies for when you get it. I got sort of this seafoam green. edition. Kill Yourself Live in 21st Century Pharisees are some pretty cool songs. And you can see they don't seem to have a really positive view of what's going on in the world and with religion based on some of these song titles. I'm hearing they might have something coming out this year or next year. I wonder if sort of the doom and gloom misanthropy is going to continue. This is definitely a step up from the last three that I've discussed, but this is still, I would not consider this. If you don't have any Mudhoney, I'm not suggesting you go out and get this one. My number 7 is going to be My Brother the Cow. So this was the second of the third that they came out with on the major label, and in my opinion, the best of the three. But it's really weird with Mudhoney in that I found their mid-90s major label output to generally be their weakest output. FDK is a pretty cool song on here. Orange Ball Peen Hammer. I mean, it's definitely produced by Jack and Dino and Mudhoney. So it went back a little bit more to the roots of the early Mudhoney that I'll be discussing here in a few minutes. My number 6, which will be my median album for them, is, again, it's one I've got on vinyl, Under a Billion Suns from 2006. Loser edition. I've got it on red vinyl. And so, Where is the Future? Empty Shells, Hard On for War. A Brief Celebration of Indifference. So again, not the most positive outlook on the world. Again, them experimenting with some of their longer form material, which kind of brings us to my number 5, which is going to be Since We Become Translucent from 2002, which of the kind of the three they did in the first decade of the 21st century is my favorite. Baby Can You Dig the Light? They start off with an 8-minute long song. The very first song, when they're back on Sub Pop, there's tenor saxophone in the song. You're wondering what the hell is going on. The last song, 7 minutes long, Sonic Confusion. You've got some vibes going on. This was the first one where they got a new bass player, Guy Madison, who came in for I'm sorry, I'm blanking on what the original bass player's name was, who had left after this. Matt Lukin. So, but yeah, I think Since We Become Translucent is a pretty cool record. And really, this one, their top 5, I think, are all really cool. Number 4 is going to be Vanishing Point from 2013. I actually saw them live on this tour, and it's maybe a little bit more stripped down than the last few ones have been. What to Do with the Neutral. This song has a crazy title, but I love it. It's called The Only Son of the Widow from Maine. Douchebags on Parade. So Vanishing Point, very strong. My favorite of the 21st century. Barely beating out Since We Become Translucent. Then the top 3 are going to be their first 3 records. So I'm not being contrarian here. I think generally people value the early Mudhoney the most. So my number 3 is going to be the self-titled Mudhoney from 1989 on Sub Pop, with classics like Flat Out Fucked, Here Comes Sickness, When Tomorrow Hits. And so I know the band themselves felt like they were kind of like repeating stuff that they had done on the previous record that I'll be talking about here in a minute. But Mudhoney debut from 1989. My number 2, I'm going to show it to you in a couple different formats. I have the reissued vinyl of the 1988 debut EP called Superfuzz Bigmuff. So this is, if I remember right, I think it's a 6-song EP. Let's see if my memory. Yeah, 6-song EP. Me, Chain That Door, If I Think, In and Out of Grace. So yeah, good stuff. And then the CD, which I'd gotten before, has 12 tracks on it, so it also includes collecting their early singles, stuff like Touch Me, I'm Sick, Sweet Young Thing, Ain't Sweet No More, Hate the Police. That's going to be my number 2. My number 1 is going to be what I think their masterpiece is, 1991, Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge. It was really, really too bad that this was not their major label debut, because I think if they had put this out first, I have the 30th anniversary edition, which came out last year, so it's 2 discs. 1 disc with the original album, and then the second disc has some demos and some live tracks and the like. But yeah, they're the guys in their glory. And if you don't agree with my rankings, I'm going to stick a link down on Vice.com. Steve Turner did a ranking. It was just before Digital Garbage came out, so he ranked 10 of the records, didn't rank Digital Garbage. But that's my ranking the albums of Mudhoney. And so again, I'll do these ranking the albums of entire discographies occasionally. I'm going to be starting my 5 records in 5 minutes series, where I'll be talking about bands or genres or labels where I have 5 records, maybe not everything, and kind of briefly talk about them. So I hope you like that and like this. We like Mudhoney.